Good morning and welcome to Trends in the Papers on mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. It's time for us to look through the major trending stories on the front pages of our dailies. And we have our papers here with us, The Punch, The Guardian and Vanguard newspaper, in no particular order. Well, as we all know, the strike... Labour and the federal government have come to a compromise. Strike has been called off, but then there's still a lot to talk about as regards the minimum wage conversation. There's the report coming in, or there's the argument coming in as regards spending billions on foreign trips, luxurious leadership lifestyle, a very large and bloated cabinet and all of that, especially when citizens are struggling with inflation, is a wild conversation where Labour is asking for a measly amount as regards minimum wage or livable wage or sustainable wage. And there's also another conversation around the struggles of Nigeria with oil production and oil theft, pipeline vandalism have long been the serious challenge for Nigeria's oil industry, which limits production and hinders Nigeria from meeting its OPEC quotas. Yesterday on Trends in the Papers, Sage and Fuad went on the conversation as regards Dangote's lament as regards supply of crude, and it's a serious conversation because oil has been a major crux as regards revenue generation outside of the country and all of that, and which is one of the things that former President Olusegun Obasanjo highlighted when we had that conversation on Monday as regards the fact that oil came and then we forgot about so many other areas that Nigeria could thrive on. Well, it's time for Trends in the Papers. Let's see what are the major trending stories that we have on the front pages of our dailies. My name is Omobola Sandra. I won't be doing this alone. Fuad Zahid will join in via the phone line to give analysis to the stories that we're going to be treating this morning. We'll do this till about 8:30. We'll take a short break till 8:40 and we're back for Mainland Focus, where you, our dear listener, get to be a part of the conversation and you get to also, chip in as regards the focal points for the day. Let's see what we have here as we look at the story. But before then, good morning, Fuad.
Good morning, Sandra. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you very much. Thankful. I don't know, is light back in your area? Because light is back in our own area. We have lights.
Well, I think some parts of my area got power restored yesterday, but not in my own immediate community. So,
okay.
But I think in most parts of Lagos,
in most parts, people the light is back. Power is back.
I think from around 6:15, 7 o'clock, it came at different times. But I think in most parts of Lagos, I've been able to testify to the fact that power has been restored. I think the grid is back to life.
Thankfully, I hope it stays that way without any hindrance.
We hope it doesn't shut itself.
It shuts itself. That's what I'm saying. Because the conversation is the economic sabotage. They went to shut down the national grid, and I wonder, in all the 8 years or so of Buhari's administration, I remember quite clearly. I think the grid shut down on its own about 100 times, and the conversation was not that's economic sabotage. But this issue
of economic sabotage. I'm sure one or two stories from the papers will give you the opportunity really to talk about what should be considered a national economic sabotage, what should be considered a threat to national security. Because again, what you now have from those I call the megalomaniacs of government, those that just want to continue to support whatever government does, whether it is right or wrong. I've now started the conversation as to threat to national security, it's economic sabotage, it's treasonable felony, people should be arrested, never should it happen again. They are now calling on the national security advisor to get people arrested, blah 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 and all of that. But like I said, I really don't want us to I want us to have a very robust conversation, and I'm hoping that one or two headlines from the papers will now give you the opportunity to highlight what really we should consider a threat to national security.
Well, thank you very much, Fuad. Time check right now is 7:46 a.m. Let's go full throttle as we look at the major stories on the front pages of our papers, kicking things off with the Punch newspaper. And the major headline there reads, minimum wage talks, rather. Minimum wage talk. Labour considers 100,000 naira as Tinubu issues ultimatum, and we have a rider there that says President orders minister to calculate cost. Labour gives 1 week ultimatum. So, as we all know, Labour has suspended the strike due to the fact that the president has promised that, oh yes, he's willing to go high. Or no, he said he's committed to going higher than 60,000 naira, and Labour has said, okay, we're ready to go back to the negotiation table for another 1 week, and let's see what they have to offer. And the president has ordered the Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edun, coordinating Minister of the Economy, to look at the cost implication of this minimum wage conversation. So let's see what the report says. Organized labor may settle for 100,000 naira minimum wage as the tripartite committee on national minimum wage commences daily meetings for 5 days in order to reach a consensus. Multiple sources in labor mentioned that the union leaders are willing to review their demand from 494,000 naira to 100,000 naira following criticism and controversy that trailed their proposal, which was considered outrageous and unrealistic. All right, we'll get into unrealistic and unreasonable, or reasonable and unrealistic, much later on, because we're going to be looking at juxtaposing the demand of labor against what some of our elected leaders are earning at this time now. However, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, in a statement by his media aide Rabiu Ibrahim, said the proposed minimum wage would result in an annual expenditure of 9.5 trillion naira, a burden he described as untenable for the nation's finances. Fuad, now 9.5 trillion naira, that's the major I don't know where you want to start from, but this is where I want to start from. 9.5 trillion naira, that's the concern of the federal government as regards the 490 something thousand naira proposal, and we're looking against a Nigerian senator's earning of about 29 million naira monthly. That's looking at basic salary and other allowances that comes in.
Well, standard for people that are talking about the government will now need something over 9 trillion naira to fund this 494,000 naira minimum wage demand of labor. What they are also putting into consideration is what is called consequential adjustment. Because again, the minimum wage has been demanded by labor now and has been proposed by government only affects level 1 to 7. So if you are talking about, let's say we are talking about 100,000 naira now as minimum, if both labor and government agree to that, that will only be for level 1 to level 7 in the civil service. Anything above that to the permanent secretary level, that's what is called consequential adjustment. Because you can't move the salaries of level 1 to 7 from 30,000 naira, for example, standard, to 100,000. It shouldn't meet up with the people that are higher than them.
So because there are some people that are currently on that
100,000.
So they have to be pushed up as well.
They have to be pushed up as well. So there's that consequential adjustment. That's why the government is saying that look, we can't do if we have to implement this demand of labor at 494,000 naira minimum wage demand, we need about 9.something trillion naira every year to fund salaries alone, which is unrealistic. Really. We've talked about the fact that look, if we look at the cost of living at this time, Sandra, you can never force the demand of labor or say it's unreasonable. But it is unrealistic. It's just what it is. You might have a reasonable demand, but the reality on ground may make it impossible to get. And that's where we are. For you to have a decent living in Nigeria now, Sandra, you know what it takes: public transportation, the cost of food, and all of that. But be that as it may, at the end of the day, experts have made suggestions. Kingsley Moghalu, I think, is even suggesting something around 75,000 naira to between 75,000 naira to 100,000 naira as what should be ideal as minimum wage at this time. Experts like this one is also within that range. And I have also suggested that look, anything between 70 to 100,000, Sandra, should be okay as a minimum. At least should be realistically okay. You know, and I think at the end of the day, labor too would have to look at their demands and understand that look, we may think this is a reasonable thing to demand for, but it is not realistic, and so we just have to go with reality. But in all of these conversations, Sandra, it is very, very important that we talk about what has happened in the last, let's say, 48 hours, and ask ourselves, was it not possible for us to have avoided this confusion of having labor go on strike, shutting down the national grid, collapsing the economy of the country practically? You know, something we could have avoided. Remember that the tripartite committee, Sandra, was inaugurated by the vice president in January this year. How many months ago? The law guiding the minimum wage negotiations also states that before the expiration of any minimum wage, 6 months to that time, a committee should be set up to negotiate and arrive at a conclusion. We did not do that. Out of pressure, conversations, and what have you, in January, reluctantly the government set up the tripartite committee. Look at the way the committee meeting has been handled. The governors have refused to attend. They don't even attend. When they attend by proxy. You understand? The federal government kept dilly-dallying. They attend today, they don't attend tomorrow. They refuse to even put a figure on the table. So it has to take this drastic action by labor. You can call it economic sabotage. You can call it whatever name you want to call it. But just imagine now, the government is now ready to have a marathon meeting with labor every day for the next 1 week to come to a conclusion. Is this something, shouldn't we have done that all this while before it got to this level? Sandra, why did the government refuse to do all of this before labor did what they did? And now they are now reacting. They are now saying President is committed. Oh, I think part of the report we have in the paper today, I said the president has told the Minister of Finance, give me the figures. I need to know what the figures are. I need to quickly take a decision. There was enough opportunity. There was ample time, Sandra, for the government to have been able to take all these decisions. Why didn't they do that?
We're questioning the fact that how many times did they even meet in all the 5 months before all this brouhaha?
We kept asking that question on the show.
Are they meeting? Are they meeting? Who are the people that are even going for this meeting? What exactly is going on?
And then we're having different figures, Sandra. And I kept asking, we can't be working with figures that are just being thrown around. Since we have a tripartite committee, we were hoping that from January till around April, May, there would have been robust engagement, consistent meetings, deliberate actions to resolve the minimum wage. Look at where we are now. But unfortunately, labor did what they did, and now everybody is talking about reasonable felony, national sabotage, was threat to national security, blah blah blah. And I ask the question, Sandra, between shutting down the national grid, that a lot of people are now quoting laws and referring to as threat to national security, between shutting down that grid and the excruciating poverty, the widespread poverty in Nigeria, which one is a bigger threat to national security? If we're talking about national security, right? If that's the conversation now, not the thing that led to labor doing what they did. If the conversation now is national security, we are talking about prison and blah blah economic sabotage. Which one is more of an economic sabotage, a threat to national security, between shutting down the grid and the widespread, consistent, persistent poverty, multi-dimensional poverty in the land? Which one is a bigger national security, threat to national security? Standard. Right. The corruption in the land, the widespread corruption in Nigeria, endemic corruption in Nigeria, that consistently sees the God-given resources of the country and money that belongs to Nigeria being taken away, being filtered away recklessly. Which one is a bigger threat to national security than that? And the fact that even as we speak today, our farmers cannot go to farm. On a daily basis, bandits are still abducting farmers, doing all manner of things, kidnappers are on the... Which one is a bigger threat to national security? And that's why you see developed countries in the world, Sandra, just 1 minute. No, look, America is the most secure nation in the world, right? They have the best of security in the world. But they know that, look, there can't be adequate security in that country if they don't tackle poverty. And that's why you see that they keep checking deflation figures. It must not even reach 5%. The unemployment figures, they keep checking. Immediately the unemployment figure gets to 5%, there's trouble in the land. Because they know that, look, the biggest threat to national security in any nation is when you have widespread poverty, unemployment, the way we have it in Nigeria. So instead of dealing with that, they are complaining about the same grid they are complaining about that was shut down for just 24 hours. Collapsed how many times this year? This year alone. It has collapsed how many times?
About 3 times.
So those collapse that happened is not a threat to national security. So because Labour has decided to do what they needed to do to get the government serious about this negotiation now, they should not be arrested because it's a threat to national security. Let's continue to deceive ourselves.
All right, thank you very much, Fuad. But what about the fact that Labour now is willing to come to a compromise of 100,000 naira, which is a far cry from their initial proposal of from 615,000 naira to now 494,000 naira?
No, I'm sure Labour would have to shoot ground. Again, we steady, that consistent. That demand for me, in my own opinion, people can have a different opinion. It's not unreasonable, but it's unrealistic. Nobody's going to pay that money, we know. Because again, like I've just told you, there's also the idea of, there's also the part of consequential adjustment, which is going to come into the conversation. Then, of course, these state governors are not going to pay. We know. If the federal government agrees out of pressure or something to one ridiculous amount now, how would the state governors pay? The organized private sector, the third leg of the tripartite committee that is also making the numbers, will not also pay because they have to check their books to be able to pay any minimum wage agreement we're talking about there. So we have to come to a compromise that is realistic. So it's all about juggling between reality and what is ideal. And I think that again, from the reports we are getting, from some of the pillars we are also getting from inside sources within organized labor, I think they would have to settle for something around the 100,000 naira.
All right, then. Looking at all of this that has been said, the TUC president has said, no, we're not coming back to the table, and then we start hearing addition of 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 as they've been doing.
Because you say you are committed to anything above 60,000. It could be 61,000.
It could be 65,000.
Or 65,000.
6,500. 60,500.
Or 60,100.
So let's just know what we're doing. Let's be guided, basically.
So the man is saying,
don't come and
joke with us. Yeah.
Exactly. That's not the one that you come.
But I think this time the government will get serious. I'm hoping that the government will get more serious.
Well, union is being union has not been able to mention a specific amount, but they said the new minimum wage must be equal in purchasing power to the value of what 30,000 naira was in 2019 and what 18,000 naira was in 2014, which were the minimum wage in those particular years. But then disclosing to journalists, Mohammed Idris, Minister of Information, has assured of the president's readiness to accept the committee's resolution, adding that the president is determined to go with what the committee has said and is looking at the welfare of Nigerians. The wage is not just that of the federal government. The sub-nationals are involved. The organized private sector is involved. It was Labour that stepped out during that procedure. Now we have to come back to the negotiation table and come together to have a new minimum wage that is affordable, sustainable, and that is also realistic for Nigerians.
You see why Nigerians will not go with some of these rhetoric standards. Because again, it's affordable, it's reasonable, it's realistic, all of this grammar. Sandra, I sent something to you, and I think it was published on the people. Of course, it's been trending on social media.
It's been trending on X yesterday, yes.
On X and all. Look, if you continue to say you can't pay this amount of money, it's not reasonable, we don't have the money and all that.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So So if we say that it's not realistic, or it's too much, or it's too costly, or it's too expensive for the government, or let's start with the federal government, it's too expensive for the federal government to do, or what then in a country where we have a Nigerian senator, the basic salary of a Nigerian senator is about 2.4 million naira. There's hardship allowance. I don't know what that means, but
hardship
there's
allowance, what's the amount?
About 1.2 million for hardship allowance. 50%
of basic salary.
Basic salary.
That's least everything the senator gets every month in Nigeria.
So there's constituency allowance. I don't. Is it different from constituency project money?
Project is different from allowance. So these are allowances and salaries.
So this is for the senator, not for his constituency.
Not the senator. What the benefit that gets to him every month?
Constituency allowance, 200% of basic salary. That's about 4.9 million. That's almost 5 million naira, and that's a month now. There's furniture allowance, which is about 300% of basic salary. And I have a lot of questions as regards the fact that even a returning senator would be collecting furniture allowance every time you come back. Every time you come, every month you be collecting furniture allowance.
That's good.
There's newspaper allowance, which is about 1.2 million naira, and I'm wondering if it's the same newspaper that we also use here for trends. That we use for trends and the papers.
That's available online for them.
There's wardrobe allowance.
They must look good.
621,000 naira. There's recess allowance.
Recess. Even when you go on recess, we not.
There's accommodation allowance, about 5 million naira thereabout. There's utilities allowance, which is 30% of the basic salary, which is about 800,000. There's entertainment entertainment. There's personal assistant, which is about 20.
Allowance.
Yes.
Entertainment allowance.
Maybe you want to go out for drinks. You want to go for a Burna Boy concert, because
Yeah.
I don't know. You just want to listen to Charlie Poppy.
You want to ball.
Yeah, the window just want to ball. I don't know. But there's personal assistant, there's vehicle maintenance allowance after buying 160 million naira worth of car. We need to also ensure that you maintain it properly so that we can hand it over to the next senator that is coming from that constituency. Okay, that's a good one. That's 75% of the basic salary. That's about 1.8 million. There's leave allowance. That's about 10% of the basic salary. There's severance gratuity. So wait, and then finally, there's motor vehicle allowance. So help me out, Fuad, please.
So everything amounts to how much?
No. Before we go to the total, Fuad, just help me out. I see vehicle maintenance allowance, and then I see motor vehicle allowance. I didn't study English. I don't know. Maybe you can. No, I grew up in the village.
On this one today. Just go on.
It's all right. Well, motor vehicle allowance is about 10 million naira. So basically, everything a Nigerian senator earns in a month is about 29.479 million naira. About 29.4 million naira a month. Now, the argument now, Fuad, is that the president does not have a say in what the senators earn, because it's a self-financing arm of government. It's an independent arm of government. The president also doesn't have a say in what the judiciary earns. It's a self-financing arm of government. It's an independent arm of government and all of that. So you can't lump the fact that Nigerian senators are earning this amount of money on the president to push him to make something as regards the minimum wage conversation.
Well, the thing is this: whether we like it or not, these monies we're talking about to belong to Nigerians. This is a public fund that are being spent in this manner. Again, people have said that we need to. These are the official figures. Of course, it could be disputed because most of these things are also done in secrecy. You probably have to dig deep really to get some of these figures as we have it now. Again, this was even shared by the organized labor on the official X handle to justify some of their claims, and that's where I'm actually even picking these figures from. But the reality is that, look, we have decided to create a society that just only takes care of the arts. The arts not in trouble. Nobody thinks about them. And we are a society now where the gap between the rich and the poor continues to widen because of things like this. You understand what I'm saying? And that's why people are already suggesting that we want to really get serious about this minimum wage conversation. Can we also put our senators, our legislators, our these government officials on the minimum wage? Put them on the salary scale of a permanent secretary, for example. So everything a permanent secretary gets in a month at the federal level, let our senators, House of Reps members also be on that scale. Ministers, everybody, even the president. So we know that yes, there's still no money. We're going to tell the cash, that's the problem. So for the man to tell you to the case, oh, there's money, oh, you have to understand, oh, it will lead to inflation. They keep taking care of themselves. When it comes to their own salaries, emoluments, and benefits, they don't look at the figures. They just appropriate.
All right.
You understand? So that's why they look so happy. They look so, they are well fed. They are well taken care of. And that's why I say that, look, if we want to talk about threat to national security, we will not leave the studio, because what they do for me, the things they do, their level of insensitivity to the plight of non-white Nigerians is a bigger threat to national security than even the shutting down of the national security.
Thank you very much, Said Fuad. More details on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. We have quite a lot of other stories to look through. You can get, there's a lot, that you can still get as regards the minimum wage conversation. You can dig deeper on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. This is Mainland 98.3 FM. It's 7 minutes past 8, and we're looking through major trending stories on the front pages of our dailies. Moving on now, we also have here, CNG will reduce petrol imports by $4.4 billion, and that's also on the front page here, and the story is on page 23.
Petrol imports. So we are still invested on this importation of PMS. We can't refine locally. That's what the story is telling you. That we're not even sure of our capacity. If you try that to the Dangote story, you know where I'm coming from.
Exactly. I was just going to go there. So from the report we're getting now, the federal government announced by itself on Tuesday that Nigeria is going to reduce the importation of PMS, popularly called petrol, by about $4.4 billion annually by adopting the use of compressed natural gas. And this was announced through the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative, adding that the target of government was to convert 1 million diesel and petrol-powered vehicles to start running on CNG, very soon. I really don't have so much to say as regards the CNG, because apparently from experts, this CNG is even something that in about 5 years thereabout is something that would have it will become obsolete of some sort. But looking at it, as regards the peculiarity of Nigeria and the fact that we have crude, and this is not supposed to even be on the table at all, not supposed to be a conversation. I'm going to tie this story with a story here on the front page of the Punch, just above the masthead, where it says, sell crude to Dangote refinery, federal government directs IOC. So yesterday, on Trends in the Paper, Sage and Fuad started the conversation around the lamentations of Aliko Dangote as regards his...
They also cry.
Look at that though. As regards as regards supply or his difficulties or the challenges that he's going through as regards getting access to crude in an oil producing country. And I remember very clearly last year where he had to get his crude in batches because there were some logistic issues and all of that. He's able to get it, and is he going to have to continue that way when he has a refinery in an oil producing country? So now the federal government in one way or the other, or the government in one way or the other, has responded to that on page 21 of the Punch newspaper, saying that they're going to direct and make it mandatory for IOCs to provide crude to Dangote and other refineries in the country. So very quickly, let's see what the report has to say. The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has said it would mandate international oil companies to supply crude oil to Dangote Oil Refinery. The spokesperson of NUPRC, Olaide Shonola, said the commission was intervening to ensure the local sale of crude to Dangote and other refineries in the country. Fuad, this is where we are now. Dangote is regretting opening up a refinery in Nigeria. And we were so happy, we're excited. Diesel is now 1,100 AU. So when Dangote starts producing PMS and starts supplying PMS rather, we should also see that significant, decrease
drop in price.
in the price. But here we are now, the man doesn't have access to crude.
Well, again, a big irony, really. A big irony, very unfortunate. You know, before now, the conversation was that, look, we have crude. We're an oil-producing nation, even though we're dealing with oil, crude oil theft, and what have you. But it was really very difficult to understand why we can't have functional refineries. We have 4 that were built by government. All 4 run aground completely. Corruption, you know, came in, and every one of the 4 refineries went comatose. And consistently, we've been appropriating money, you know, billions of naira for turnaround maintenance. We were not able to turn anything around. And even the intervention of Dangote sometime some years back to buy the Port Harcourt refinery was stalled when the late President Tʀᴇɪᴅs Iṛ government cancelled that purchase. And of course, that was what led to him, you know, getting motivated to build his own refinery. After several years, support from government, blah, 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 Dangote was eventually built to build his own refinery, put at over $20 billion, with a capacity of 650,000 refining capacity every day. Sandra, almost 1 year down the line, we reported it here. It was reported out. He struggled to get a meager 6 million barrels of crude oil supply. He came in fancy. This month he gets 1 million barrels. Another month he gets, so for almost 6 months, eventually about 6 million barrels of crude oil supply got to the Dangote refinery. And we said it at that time, Sandra, that if Dangote refinery will be working to full capacity, because it has the capacity of 650,000 barrels per day. That's the refining capacity of that refinery. 6 million barrels would only take in just about 10 days to exhaust if it was working to full capacity. So what you supply to him in 6 months is not something that he's supposed to work with in 10 days. And we've been getting reports that, look, he's been going around the world looking for crude, you know, for his refinery. We've gotten reports of him also going to the US, for example, expecting some crude supply, blah, blah, blah. The reality of the moment is that, look, we are not able to feed the Dangote refinery with crude supply. So if we are struggling, standard, to supply crude to Dangote refinery, what of if Port Harcourt refinery, as it's been promised in July, eventually comes on stream? Then Warri refinery too comes together, and we are able to fix it. Kaduna comes in. The 4 refineries that we have in Nigeria, standard, 2 in Port Harcourt, the one in Warri and the one in Kaduna State. You put everything together, they all have a capacity of 445,000 barrels per day. If you add that to Dangote refinery, it means that we'll be needing over 1 million barrels of crude oil every day to supply those refineries. If we want them to work to full capacity, where would that crude oil come from? Now that we are even struggling to supply to that. And if you now read this report, Sandra, you get the hypocrisy from this report, where the man speaking for that agency at the upstream sector was saying that, look, they are not going to mandate the IOC to supply crude to Dangote refinery. And they asked him, can you force them? Will you force them? Are they going to be sanctioned? He avoided that question. He said, no, you know, we are just going to mandate them, but we are not going to force them. He said, we are going to mandate them, but we can't force them. You can mandate the IOC, but you can't force them to supply to Dangote refinery. How do you mandate the people? If you have that regulatory power to mandate, it means you can force them. So why is it difficult for him to force them? That's why, again, we need to check the operational model of the IOC. Whether there's really the powers of these agencies to mandate them. Because what we now have here is a situation where I'm sure Dangote is wondering, how did I open a bakery without thinking about how to get flour? How did I, for heaven's sake, spend billions of dollars, you know, opening up a refinery, and then I didn't think about how I'm going to get crude locally. So I assume that because I operate, or I'll be operating in an oil-producing nation, crude will be supplied automatically. We have issues with forward sales, Sandra. I think it's crude with Yahoo. That's the meaning of forward sales. And we must, yes, we collected some money that the deal was forward sale of our crude. So some of our crude, as we are producing them, has to be used to settle that basis. That's it. crude oil theft is still a major problem. We are still not able to meet up with our OPEC quota. Remember, on this same issue of crude supply locally, Sandra, people who have licenses to build modular refineries said, look, they can't even get bank financing because there's no guarantee that crude will be supplied to them locally in naira.
That's it.
The IOCs are looking at dollars, they are looking at forex. So it pays them to export our God-given resources out of the country to make forex. Whereas in Nigeria, we are not even able to produce enough to feed our local refineries. It's a web of confusion. It's unfortunate. And that's why the late 𝐶PM Abiola said it yesterday in the interview he made about reforms in the oil sector, that look, the Nigerian oil sector is the most confusing in the world. There are too many layers of confusion. Until we resolve all of those issues, we are getting nowhere.
Well, according to him, the international oil companies were used to exporting crude for foreign exchange, and they were not ready to stop. Saying that international oil companies are not ready to sell crude to down.
So can we force them? Can we force them to supply us locally?
But he has made it mandatory.
And if they supply us locally, Standard, would they collect naira? Would they collect us? Would they be selling to us in dollars or in naira?
It's all right.
You see the problem now.
Well, I said they just keep intervening and they see what they can do as regards that particular one. Say, and I quote, I can't say we will force them, but as a regulator, we can mandate them. I don't know. It's semantics, really. When you mandate someone, meaning it's compulsory, meaning you must do it.
Maybe the man should have said we will go and beg them.
But I don't, or we'll just, or he should have just ended it and we'll intervene. But he said we'll just keep on engaging, and you will agree with me that most of these things have to be planned. We'll keep on engaging, and we'll do our regulatory function. We'll do our regulatory function. He said, and I quote,
by mandating them, but not forcing them.
We'll not force them, but we'll mandate them.
We'll mandate them.
He said we'll give them clear directives. We give them clear directives.
Why we are staying on this story to highlight how terrible situation is really in the oil sector. It's a thing that we don't really focus on. Again, too much distractions about national anthem, very unnecessary distractions really. Whereas we have national issues like this that we're supposed to focus on. Look at our senators and legislators. Are these all the issues we expect them to focus on really? Get to work to really fix problems like this? But they are so much invested, they are so happy to talk about a national anthem. Whereas there are serious issues that can have far-reaching implications and effects on the lives of the people. They don't even focus on things like that. It's about national anthem. Okay, how does national anthem solve this problem we're talking about?
Well, the story is on page 21. It will take us back to it will take us back to when our refineries were working.
So would that be to take us back to when our refineries were working?
Yes.
Very wonderful.
So we won't have to import, and so we won't have to spend so much money.
So that was why they worked very hard, very fast to take us back to the old anthem.
Yes, it will take a while, but yes, it will take a while, but just be hopeful, And that's
as we think the anthem, the refineries will come back to life.
It will come back. Like that. It will come back.
That's why we are going to be able to produce enough crude.
Have faith. Have faith.
Like they say, I see the wisdom. Continue.
I'll call you our legislator, Sadiq. It's all right. The story is on page 21 of the Punch newspaper. Sell crude to Dangote refinery. Federal government directs IOCs. Moving on now, very, very quickly. Naira may settle at 1,450 naira per dollar by December.
Look at the line, it will settle.
May settle.
Just what do you mean by settle? Just stay there.
Probability.
So that means no hope of all these 750 we've been hoping for, or less than 1,000. It just settle by December. So there's no going back. Local government funds, reps back federal government suit against governors, and that's on page 29 of the Punch newspaper. Time check right now is 8:20 a.m. and you are listening to Mainland 98.3 FM. This is Trends in the Papers. Moving on now, on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, the major headline, World Environment Day. How illegal mining, deforestation, others leave Nigerians poorer. So just very quickly, let's see what the report has for us. Riders here, experts seek enforcement of EIA
That's environment impact assessment, project, green areas, public spaces. Farmers' displacement poses food sovereignty risk. Experts urge revival of irrigation facilities, breeding for drought resistance. We have remediated 46 sites in Ogoni, says High Prep. And then we also have here, United Nations urges countries to restore degraded ecosystems and land. So the high temperatures, non-implementation of an environment impact assessment report, audit of the population in the Niger Delta region may have cast doubt on the country's environmental stewardship and efforts to combat hunger, attain efficient use of natural resources, and stem environmental damage. So specifically, issues of unregulated mining, deforestation, oil and gas extraction activities, as well as land reclamation, are promoting profiteering and abuse of resources to the benefit of a few political class at the expense of the vast majority of Nigerians who continue to wallow in poverty. So as it is now, EIA reports on development projects have been shrouded in secrecy. I'll say this very quickly. I'm just whispering to Fuad. Lagos Calabar survey, but then
Lagos Calabar is the major issue now. It's part of the major issue.
So this is a lot.
The EIA report on Lagos Calabar that made our minister not understand it. At that point, the English became a problem.
So you grew up in the village.
This one I know have been.
Well,
and then at the end of the day, the marine cables now made them to realign.
And speaking of our waterfront, even here in Lagos, what we have now is even government, should also work on restoring or our wetlands.
I'm coming to something before wetlands.
Okay.
The issue of reclamation.
Okay. Yes.
My people in Lagos Island, I think they are the side of Lagos Island, have been complaining of terrible water. Even when they dig borehole, the water that comes are too salty, too acidic. They've been complaining. And reports we've been getting is that, look, the ᴜ reclamation that was done for that ᴜ housing estate,
yes.
the reason why a lot of the Lagos people in Lagos Island are suffering. That's fake. I am sure that by the time you go and check, if there's really an EI report on the ᴜ project, you'll see what will come out of that investigation.
If there is there an AIA on that project?
You may be shocked. I'm saying you may be shocked that there's no EIA report. Because people have been complaining just across the road in a DDD area and parts of Lagos Island that look, suddenly when their reclamation started, things started to get worse for them in terms of water supply. It became salty, became acidic, and they are pointing to that reclamation going on there. And that's the same thing that is going on in different parts. Look, the reason why the EIA report, for example, in other parts of the country too. Look, if you have illegal mining as widespread as we have it in Nigeria, illegal miners are not going to be bothered with the environment. They just want to make money. They mess everything up. It's not regulated. It's illegal. So they just want to take the resources. They don't care what becomes of your environment. The same thing is happening to the Niger Delta too. People that are stealing your crude oil, you think they are bothered with what happens to your environment? Even the IOC, how responsible are they to the plight of our environment? They are just here for the resources. It's neocolonialism, they don't care. It's the resources they are bothered with. Look at the story of the Ogoni people. We are now cleaning bit by bit. But the vast majority of land in the Niger Delta has been messed up because of oil exploration. Who cares, really?
All right. Well, it is actually unfortunate. I mean, as it is now, valuable ecosystems are being lost. There are negative implications for our local economies, even the overall well-being of the people, in that environment. Just as Fuad has highlighted, getting good water on the island, in different parts of the island now, is a lot of people have to buy the sachet waters and the bottled waters, because getting clean water, and I remember people used to say that drinking from the tap is actually healthier than
in Nigeria.
It's supposed to be healthier. So that's the issue.
Even when you now sing borehole standard, the water that comes out, even in Lagos Island, you can't even use it for anything.
It's brown.
Even when you sing borehole,
So this whole land reclamation, turning of our wetlands into concrete jungles in order to for profiteering purposes and all of that. These are the issues that we need to look deeper into. World Environment Day.
I like that report, honestly, from the Guardian newspaper.
Yes,
it's a fantastic report that speaks to the reality of how we treat our environment.
Yes,
here in Nigeria, we don't care.
Thank you very much, Said Fuad. The story is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. I had to quickly rush along. I also wanted to talk about illegal mining, but then, Mr. Dela Alake is Minister of what again? I don't know.
Minister of Mines and Minister of Solid Minerals.
Oh, okay. It's all right. That's all.
They have a security officer for the mining sector.
Yeah.
And you see they've been making arrests, in saying they have been arresting some illegal miners, blah, 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 and all of that. But whatever is able to do really to get the mining sector properly regulated, will be a welcome development if he's able to do it. Really.
All right. We also have here on the front page of the Guardian newspaper something different from what we've taken. Osun APC expels Aregbesola and warns members against associating with ex-governors group. That story is on page 7. Thankfully today is midweek politics, so we'll be looking deeper into that. But then the leadership of the All Progressives Congress in Osun State have declared that the former governor of the state, Rauf Aregbesola, is no longer a member of the party in the state. And Osun APC also said that the Omoluabi Progressives Group, which is one of the caucuses of the major opposition party being led by Aregbesola, is unknown to the party and warned members against associating with the group or registering with it. They described Aregbesola as a persona non grata as far as Osun APC is concerned, adding that he has been reported to the NWC, which is the National Working Committee of the party, for allegedly distracting the party in the state.
Yeah, good luck to the APC in Osun State. It's a party matter. I don't think we should waste our time discussing what maybe we need politics to touch on that. But the APC, if they have the ball, discipline the former governor, the what's it called? The name they call it in Osun State in this manner. I'm still wondering why the PDP can't take decisions on it. But again, it's a story that we might have to touch on during meeting politics. Let's just spend our time looking at more important national issues.
Moving on from that, just a quick one. Persona non grata, that just basically means unacceptable. That's just basically what it means.
That's what they are saying.
All right, we also have here on the front page of the Guardian, very quickly, IGP, Inspector General of Police, warns senior officers against extorting personnel over promotional interview. That's on page 9 of the Guardian newspaper. And we also have here, NGE condemns increasing spate of journalist abduction. That is also on page 2.
Our colleagues, we need to talk about the media.
The Guardian newspaper, yes. So what we have is the Nigerian Guild of Editors has condemned the increasing sequence of abduction and arrests of journalists in the country by security agencies, especially by the Nigeria Public Police Force under the guise of enforcing Cybersecurity Act. And said
that's the thing now. Cyberbullying, then they begin to just, one too many.
Too many, especially in recent times. There's the Daniel, or I think is it of the cable? No, not of the cable. Of one of this online people.
The FIJ reporter too.
Yes, that's
a lot of online.
Very unfortunate.
And the way they are detained for days without trial, the harassment that comes, the Gestapo manner by which they are abducted, I think there was one that was even transported and transported from Lagos to Abuja, almost as if we are having some form of nostalgia as to what journalists witnessed during the military era. It's just what we're saying. Unfortunately, in a democracy.
Also, unfortunately, we have run totally out of time. All right, the story, interestingly, it's on the Guardian newspaper on page 2. Also, Vanguard also carries it here. Editors flee increasing spate of journalist abduction. That's on page 8 of Vanguard newspaper. These are, the issues. But the major headline on the front page of Vanguard, minimum wage, give cost to governments today. Tinubu orders finance minister. But what I want to take away from the front page of Vanguard as we move out is Labour leaders must reconsider wage demands to avoid layoff, and that is coming on the front. That's on the front page of, on page 21 rather of Vanguard newspaper, and that's coming from Mr. Bismarck Rwani. Yes, managing director, financial derivatives company, saying institutional reforms should precede price reforms, and Naira will continue to depreciate without export. You can get all of the details on page 21 of Vanguard. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, it'll be time for Mainland Focus, where you, our dear listener, you get to be a part of the conversation. This is Mainland 98.3 FM. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.